Hello and welcome to What's the Tea? It is the Progressive Leadership Alliance's podcast, and it's where we talk about what's going on in Nevada when it comes to politics, movement, and whatever else we feel like talking about. We're calling this one What's the Tea After Dark because it's getting closer to my bedtime, but we really wanted to make space to talk to one of our favorite elected officials. And today we're going to be talking about the primary elections and the general election that's coming up because, it's an even number year. We're really excited about elections because it's the way to grow and build our base. And with us today, I want to welcome one of Plan's faves, Assemblywoman Erica Mosca.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me here today.
Of course. How is your day today so far?
Well, as a life as a legislator, it's different every day, but today was good. Met with a constituent and also got to work on some AAPI stuff with the great executive order out today.
Yeah. So, for folks who have not had the pleasure of meeting you, can you tell us a little bit about your background, how you got involved, and why you decided to run for office?
Thank you so much. I love Nevada because I never thought I could be somebody who could be in elected office. I'm proud to be the first in my family to graduate from college. I was a teacher. I started and ran a nonprofit in our community in East Las Vegas for 10 years. And I really just saw that hopefully I could use my social capital and connections to connect regular people to how policy is made and just ensure that this lived experience of those who are most experiencing policy had a voice and an opportunity in spaces of power.
I love that. See, that's why you are our fave. So, obviously, we just had an election. Can you tell us why we did not see your name on any ballots?
Yes, I was not on any ballots, even though I was still out there canvassing and out in our community because I did not draw an opponent in the primary or the general. And in some ways, it's great for me, but I also say, gosh, I would love if our community in East Las Vegas, was organized and more people wanted to run. And so I wasn't on there because this time there wasn't anyone who wanted to run against me.
All right. Lucky you. So maybe that's why turnout was so low. Or why do you think we had low turnout? I'm not sure if we got to 20% yet. I know we kind of like count all the mail in ballots, but it was pretty low turnout. Do you have any thoughts around why it was so low?
Gosh, I wish it was more, just like all of us. I think in some ways, another thing we love about Las Vegas is that it's so convenient. We can do things when we want, stores are open. I don't know if maybe it's not on people's radar as much now that it's so convenient. Everybody gets a mail in ballot, everybody knows that they can vote early. So, not sure if that's part of it. Or, maybe we didn't excite people as much as we wanted to. I know that so many of my colleagues were out in the 110-degree heat, knocking on doors every day. But I think we just all have to help our community get out and I think connect how politics actually helps everyday lives. And I think that's the message we just have to keep working on.
Yeah, exactly. I was out knocking doors too. It was so hot. So maybe you can
Thank
have a
you.
BDR to move our primaries to April or something. But a couple of people I met at the door said, everyone's fighting and being negative. I'll just vote in the general. What risk do voters take if they just wait for the general and don't participate in the primary?
Yes, and I can empathize and understand why people might think that, but I would just really hope they could understand that some of those things that they don't like, they can change if they vote in the primary. Whoever wins in the primary is the person that's going to be on that November general election ballot. So in some ways, if you don't vote in the primary, you're already undercutting your power to have a voice. So I think the more people go out and vote, the more people see that it's important. I think people actually get the outcome that they want.
Yeah, exactly. No, I think you, Assemblywoman, you are very unique in the way that you use your time and also leverage your influence as an Assemblywoman. Can you talk to us a little bit about your youth committee and how you used your campaign funds during session to bring youth to Carson City?
Yes, thank you. And I always say, in some ways, I'm very privileged that I have a two income household. My husband has a job, and we don't have kids, and so that allows me to really have this time and ability. But something that's really important to me is to be the kind of legislator that I wanted to see. And so I think it's really important to use the power that I have and connect people to Carson City. So two things are: one, I had never seen anyone that had looked like me, be a teacher, be in leadership, be in political office. So I always knew that it was my job, and really just my duty to ensure there's not just a ladder that I go up, but that we can go back and help people also find their power in the work. So the youth committee is really just an opportunity to allow young people who are really interested to become my surrogates. So we have a Google sheet that's very organized. We have a text chain, and we just have events laid out. And the requirement is youth committee members have to go to one event a month, and then they're in the committee. They get a recommendation. We connect them to a lot of opportunities. So I think sometimes in campaign world, it's easy to get young folks and say, hey, just canvas, it's hot, do that. But then we also have to think about, okay, how can we connect them to jobs? How can we be references? How can we make sure, hey, there's a conference coming up, can I sponsor you to experience and be in the room too? So I think it's all about giving them the opportunity to access different positions of power, but then be the person in the position of power, like we see with our East Las Vegas Dems Club that we were able to start. It's really the young people who are all the executive board who are now running it. And so during Carson City, it was the thing. It was like, hey, if you help me with a campaign, I don't want to forget about you. That's why people don't like politics. So we use you for the campaign. We don't talk about actually legislating. So it was my goal to ensure that everyone who helped me with the campaign had an opportunity to come up to Carson City. So many folks had never been up north, some never on a plane. And so I think it was so important that I could use my campaign funds to support those volunteers to come to Carson City with a hashtag community to Carson, so that they could just experience it, whether they chose themselves to go testify on a bill or they just went on the tour so that they could see what the legislative building is. I think that that's the most important work that we can do, so that regular folks continue to know that they deserve to be there and that they have a place there.
Do you remember, because you have a lot of experience, or prior to being an assembly member, you were an educator, but also ran a nonprofit. Do you remember your first time going to Carson City and how that came about?
Of course, yeah. There are two times I think it's really important. One time I just went on my own because I was actually through Emerge Nevada, which I know we are Emergistas together. I had never been to Carson City, and so I had gone to a training up there. And my mentor, Irene Bustamante Adams, allowed me to sit with her on the floor. And to me, that was just like, I never imagined I could be there. So it really just kind of gave me this experience and feeling that, okay, I can belong. I can have a place. Even I don't think I was thinking about being elected back then, just I could have a place that, hey, maybe I can bring students up. So the second time that I went to Carson was because we figured out how to support our students from East Las Vegas to go on a UNR college tour. And then the amazing senator at the time, Ivana Kinsella, hosted them on the floor. And so that then students could see that they had power, they had a voice and advocacy. So even for me, it took a couple times to feel like, okay, this is a place where I can be. It was like that for college for me. It was like that with the boardroom and being in professional atmospheres. So I think it's sometimes we say, hey, we have all these opportunities. Why aren't people taking them? Well, there's a lot of work and groundwork to ensure that the pipeline and the support and the capacity is built so that people can be successful once they're up there, not just occupy a seat because we need their identity to be up there, but because we actually prepared them for themselves and to do the most
Uh-oh.
work.
Yes, you cut out just a little bit, but you were preaching and amen to all of that, because it's true. We don't want people up there to be the brown face. We need people to
Right.
really bring their whole selves up there. And so I really appreciate you lifting that up. And I know sometimes people have negative things to say about the Reid machine. I don't think the Reid machine is the Democratic Party. Like Rebecca Lamb has said before, it's the sum of its parts. And part of those parts is the leadership development and the long term agenda to have people ready in 10 years, 5 years, 20 years to run for office with that frame of reference always back to the community. What am I doing to uplift the community and to support and bring my community with me, like you have done really graciously? Because I think, there's a risk using your campaign funds to bring people to Carson. You could have very well had a primary opponent. Almost everyone else did, right? So I appreciate you taking that risk and really believing in the youth to support you, and doing the work. Along those lines too, so you went to Carson as for an emerge training, and you obviously been a first time legislator, and you have your youth committee. Do you see any common themes? I know you deal a lot in education, but are you seeing a lot of themes in terms of legislation that people want? Is it a lot of education? Is it housing? What are some things that you're hearing?
Yeah, great question. I think it's really about people when you talk to them at the doors or in the community, they just want to make sure that the lives that they're living, that they have the least barriers in front of them. So whether that's housing, whether that's transportation, whether that's heat, whether that's education, I really see it as a much more nuanced view and like people are people and everybody has different issues, but everyone can agree that everyone should be able to afford to live somewhere. Everybody should be able to afford to live off whatever job they have because they're working, and that there shouldn't be other barriers in the way for folks. So I think it's those big themes, and I think part of my work that I've really learned, which is new for me as an assembly person, is so I get really frustrated that so many of the issues that I talk to regular people about, or they email me or they text me about, I'm still trying to figure out how I in the state legislature can actually help those issues. So for instance, one of the biggest issues people talk to me about are all of the street lights that are out on Charleston and Lamb or Sahara and Lamb. I live on Sahara and Nellis, so I understand the issues. And so it's my job to talk to County Commissioner Segerbloom, talk to his office with Javier and B, who are so amazing there, who then connect with those constituents and make sure that we're working on something. But it's not just like, hey, that's not my issue, call this office. It's okay, let me be on an email chain with you. Let me follow up. Let me send you all the articles of the new things that I see happening. And I think it's those little things that people are like, okay, politicians are bad. But when I actually get one that is trying to solve my problem, even though they may not be able to, I think that's how people have faith in the system. And what I'm trying to learn as a new legislator is, okay, obviously that's a county city issue, but what at the legislative level can we figure out how to fix, whether it's funding, whether it's support, whether it's, whatever it is. But that's, as a also part-time legislator in an unpaid role, spent a lot of time trying to figure out how to navigate these systems.
Yeah, definitely. And speaking of Sahara and Nellis, can you shout out that Filipino restaurant where you had your event after the session? I think you've had
Yes,
another event there. It's so good. I love it.
everyone has to go to Oming's. That's where I was today for my meeting. So we go there a lot. It's the best lumpia, or for all our Filipinos out there, it's the best longanisa I've ever had in Southern Nevada. So definitely check it out.
Yes, it was really good, and the owner very hospitable, very sweet, and so I'm glad you're also supporting local businesses as you do your organizing as well. You kind of mentioned, Assemblywoman, the president's announcement regarding some adjustment of status possibilities could help here in Nevada. 125,000 people maybe possibly adjust their status, get a green card. Well, how do you? I guess maybe for some people they may think, you know, this is for Latinos, but what is your perspective on this new announcement and the work that you're doing around it?
Yes, I think it's just so exciting. I was very happy to see that this morning. And I think it's really a community issue. So whether it's something that directly impacts you because you are, related to someone who has come here or not, it impacts you. So whether it's our economy, whether it's jobs, whether it's your neighbor, whether it's who goes to school with you, we have to support all people to not feel like they're going to be torn away from their families. And so I think it's just really important to talk about immigration issues or this executive order specifically, and how does it help all Nevadans and all Las Vegans who maybe think it's just an issue in East Las Vegas or it's just an issue here. It's actually all our smaller issue. And I'm just excited for people to see that they're being recognized, because there are just so many people who feel like they're here paying taxes, they're here doing the work, but we're not seeing their humanity through policy. And hopefully today is at least just a small step in showing folks we see you, and we of course want you to be here.
Yeah. Do you have any, I know as a legislator, maybe you've received some messaging or just like any advice in general when the White House makes these announcements? I know we like to tell people don't pay anybody anything yet until the official ruling, is printed. Do you have any other advice for people who may be thinking, I'm eligible for this?
Gosh, that's such a good point too. Is, it's sorry that we have to think about things like that, right? So how we're not taking advantage of folks who already are in difficult situations. So I would say people should really just follow the formal channels to understand what's happening. Your trusted sources. I think any of elected officials groups like Plan Action and Plan, those are groups that are trusted, vetted, and that you can also have a record, right? So I think anytime people are trying to work on these issues, I always tell the students and families that I work with, make sure you have an email chain or a record. You're going somewhere public, when you're meeting people, don't meet them in their houses, and just really try to protect yourself, because it is sad that we have to think about that vulnerability, but it could be something out there.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for that. And we will definitely try to keep people as informed as possible. We also work with great partners with the Nevada Immigrant Coalition, like the UNLV Immigration Clinic and Northern Nevada Legal Aid, and all of these great nonprofits that really just give their all to make sure people are not taken advantage of. Because unfortunately, the undocumented population can be very vulnerable to just nefarious activities. And so, like the Assemblywoman says, just really go to those trusted sources. Don't pay anybody anything right now. And if you do pay someone, you should pay the government. But yeah, it may take 90 days for that process to go fully through. Um, I think we're getting close to the end of our questions, but Assemblywoman, I do want to say just, thank you for everything that you do as an assembly member. I think sometimes plan is kind of painted as like the anti everything. What were we saying? The woke left, the radical woke left. But we are a community based organization and we really, politicians come and go, but the people will always be here. And we see that your heart is in the right place because it's with the people always, and just really thankful the leadership you have by doing your youth committee and bringing your assembly district up to Carson City is definitely a model for all of your colleagues. Even as a freshman, you are a model for your colleagues to follow about ensuring that our citizen legislature remains focused on the citizens.
Well, I just really appreciate that, and I think that that's exactly it. The people are going to be here. We work for the people, and whatever they can do to advocate for us, we are truly trying our best. And thank you for the grace as well. And I continue to try my best, and that's what all I can do. But I learn from the people, and I appreciate you recognizing that.
Of course. So I'm going to close this out. You can hang out on our cool new app if you want to for like 2 minutes. But I just want to say to everyone watching today, go to the whitehouse.gov on YouTube, Twitter, wherever you can see these statements about the executive announcement he made that the biggest deal is undocumented spouses of U.S. citizens. Um, could possibly update their status, get a green card, work permit, which of course is a pathway to citizenship. And again, there is no one here who can get you to the front of any line. Do not give anybody any money. Just make sure you have your marriage certificate, your documents that show you've been in the country for at least 10 years, and just be ready for when the application is available. It is not right now. I mentioned the primaries. I really want to give a shout out to Jovan Jackson, who's one of our leaders. He was one of our volunteers on our 2018 campaign when we primaried the district attorney. He also was part of the grassroots organizing to pass AB 431, which allowed the automatic reinstatement of voting rights for formerly incarcerated people, which he benefited from. And he was actually on the front page of the Las Vegas Sun because he was one of the first people to register to vote after that law came in effect July 1st. I think 2020, maybe 2019. Oh my gosh. After 2020, do we even know what year it is? We don't. So we're really happy for Jovan Jackson. Heather Goulding, who's in Reno, longtime supporter, longtime community member. She ran a great campaign, a really smart campaign. She knew her district because she was raising her family there for nearly 3 decades. And she took that knowledge and just really micro targeted and won. And I hope she's able to join Assemblywoman Mosca very soon. So I know Heather has a background in cancer and also auditing big corporations. And I think that can come in handy in the legislature. Just a couple of call to actions. We're not going to have our housing meeting the first Thursday because it is Independence Day or whatever you want to call it. Because I know the woke radical left doesn't celebrate this country, I guess. I don't know. I'm pretending to be Cyrus. But July 11th is our next housing meeting, and we are going to make sure our tenants who have been helping us canvass all the corporate housing, all the properties that are mass evicting people. We also want you to vote because your landlord's voting. Those CEOs are voting. And we want to make sure we are voting too and electing people like Assemblywoman Mosca who cares about our communities more than just getting her to office, but also caring about our well-being. We have an eviction monitoring training on July 16th. I think it's going to be the last one for the year. In the city of Las Vegas, the city of North Las Vegas, city of Reno, we go to the tenant landlord courts and monitor them to ensure that people aren't taking advantage of, because in Nevada, we have one of the worst eviction court processes ever. The tenant actually has to go to court and file instead of the landlord. And a great example that Jonathan, our friend from Legal Aid of Southern Nevada, said, it's like your partner says they want a divorce, and so you have to go to court and file for it. And it's just so backward. And I've done court watching and just seeing how quickly people are evicted and they really don't get a chance to stick up for themselves, even when they have the money to pay rent. And the judge is just kind of like sweeping through as many cases as possible. But we have seen how it's changed when we're in the court and we're able to see people have a chance to pay their rent, stay in their home, and make their landlord act right. So yeah, oh yeah, go to our mobilize.us/PLA Nevada or Plan Action. That's all of our socials too: Instagram, YouTube, even TikTok. We have some pretty hilarious TikToks. We're extremely funny. And yeah, thank you so much. There's things going on behind my eyes. Really excited to have this episode of What's a Tea with one of our faves, Assemblywoman Erica Mosca, and we will see you next time.